Hey, this is Sasha. Thanks for joining me in today's video. And what I want to share with you today is how to construct and set up a 10 Delta Iron Condor. Now, why might you want to do this? It really comes down to having a high probability and chance of success. So I'm going to show you in this video how to go ahead and go with a 10 Delta on the call side and a 10 Delta on the put side when it comes to the Think or Swim platform and how to construct that Iron Condor to have a higher chance of success. So stay tuned. All right, so our goal in this trade is really to go ahead and do the setup at a 10 Delta. We're going to do 10 Delta on the puts and 10 Delta on the calls. I'm going to set it up first with verticals, and then we're going to go ahead and get into it with just a single Iron Condor trade. Now, this is a good setup to do because you're creating a very balanced Iron Condor on both sides, 10 Delta, which means 90% chance of success on the puts, 90% chance of success on the calls. Together, that creates the 80% chance of success because you're getting 10 and 10 on both sides. That only makes 80 now, okay? Because otherwise, if you got 90% chance of success, it would have to be just that single side. So when we combine it, we get that 80. So taking a look at this trade screen, we're going to go ahead and do this on Shopify. So here I have Shopify. And what you'll want to do is go ahead and take a look at your trade grid here. This is your trade, all products. I'm going to go ahead and let's go into the 60 days. Could you do it at 30 days, 10 Delta? Yeah. Could you do it at 40 days? Yes, you could. In our case, we're going to do the 60 days. We have our calls over here on the left. So that's our call side. And our put side is over here on the right. I'm going to first start out with the put side. So how do I go ahead and get a 10 Delta? Well, first thing you have to understand is, well, how do I find the Delta? And to find the Delta, I have to go ahead and switch this by clicking this area right here, this value level. I'll go to option theories and go to Delta. Now that switches it. Some people, what they like to do is look at probabilities, and they might switch it to probabilities of in the money. So that's going to be very similar to your Delta. And if I go ahead and let's say reduce some of these strikes, what you'll see is as I go through, and let's say I'm zooming in, there's my Delta. So think of it right here. So I got a negative Delta on the put side. So you can see I've got a negative 0.05. That means a 0.04. That means a 4 Delta or a 5 Delta. That's what it means. Or negative 0.08. That means an 8 Delta. So in our case, we're looking for a 10 Delta. So here's our 10 Delta. Okay, does it matter if I didn't have a 10? Could I go to an 11? Yeah, I could do that. So here, in this case, I'll go to a 10 Delta, and then I'll buy my protection a little bit further out. So here's what I do. I'm going to go ahead and sell, and this will be off screen. It'll be a vertical, but it's going to look like, let me see if I can keep it on screen. Sell, maybe not. Let's see. Sell, nope. Let's see if I can do it on this side. No, it's not showing up just because it's off screen. There you go. So it's going to look something like this. So let me do it on the upper end so you can see. There's going to be my 10. Okay, so I'll go ahead, sell, and there's the vertical. So that's how you go ahead and do it. I'm going to go ahead and click this, and now I'll go ahead and analyze that trade. Now, in our case, what I'm going to do is go in on my protection. Here's my protection, the one I'm buying. I'll just go 10 points out. So I've got a 530 and a 520. That gives me a 10 Delta. I'll hit this unlock, and boom, that's 90% chance of success. Now, if I add another vertical, let's say we go ahead and add another one on this end, that'll be also 90%. But together, since I got 10% on this side and a 10% on this side, that's what creates that 80% in the middle. So that's what we're really looking at. I'm not really worried about this at the top. I'm not worried about this gray zone here of why this is grayer than this zone or this zone. I'm looking at the deltas. That's the key. So here I've got my Delta right there set up. I've got my 10 Delta set up on the put side, and I can do the same thing as I go into the call side. So again, what you'll notice is here's my Delta, here's my probability. So take a look. These numbers will look very similar. I've got a 0.38 Delta with a about almost a 29-30% probability in the money. So they're going to be close. They're not identical, but you could also use probability in the money, but Delta is just more specific. So go ahead and focus on the Delta. So I'll keep scrolling till I find my 10 Delta. In our case, as we look at this, this will be right here at the 1040s. So I'll do the same thing. I'll go ahead and I'll sell a vertical, which will be off screen, analyze the trade, and now I will go ahead and see it right there. Okay, so I've got my 10 delta. There is my 20 point difference. I'll go ahead and 10. If I change it to 10 and 10, you can see this one's not traded. So I do have to go to 20 here. And that also means in this case, I do have to go to a 20 point strike difference here as well. So now I've got a 10 delta on both sides, and that's the setup. Now, why is the 10 delta on the put side worth more than the 10 delta on the call side? It's simple. People get more panicked on the put side, or they get more panicked when stocks sell off. So that's why it's worth just a lot more. So in our case right there, you can see, hey, we've got a 10 delta on both sides. That creates kind of a little bit of a interesting balance. Let's just double check here. But yeah, 1040. And the other one is, yeah, 530. So it looks a little funny here, but that's really our basic 10 delta on both sides setup trade. I can do this also as a single trade. I will show you how to do this on the S&P real quick, just so you can see it. So if we go to the S&P and I go to, let's say, 59 days out, my 10 delta, I'll have to open this up in strikes. My 10 delta in this case, so you can see I'm looking for my delta right here. There's my delta. I'm looking for my delta right there. And you can see there's a ton of 10 deltas, right? Which means if you go to a more percentage value of it, this is more like 10.8 or 10.9. This is more like 10.7. This is more like 10.5. So there's more values to it, just in the same way that there's probabilities here. So as we go here, I might go ahead and let's just say sell an Iron Condor now instead. You can see I've got this set up. So how would I do this? I could construct this and I could say, okay, well, I'll go to about 24.30 on the puts. So here's my puts. I'll go to 24.30 and I'll buy my protection maybe at 20 points out. And then as I go to a 10 delta here, you can see there's my 10 delta, 32.50. So I'll go on the calls, 32.50. The one I'm short is my 10 delta, 32.50. This is the one I'm selling, 32.50. And the one I'm buying, 32.50, 60, 70. Let's see, is it 20? We're going with 20 points out. That one's not traded. So there's my 50. So I'll have to go to 33. Let's go to 3,300 right there. And that means I'll need the other one 50 points as well. So that would be 30 points. If I go a little bit further, that'll be 40 points. And then another one, 50 points. So as I analyze this trade, now you can see with the S&P, I get much more of a normal situation like this versus the Shopify that you saw. Here is a 10 delta on both sides. And this is the typical way you will see 10 delta on both sides, is that you'll have a tiny, based on a negative vega, you'll have a little bit of negative delta here as well. And that's pretty good. That's usually when you have a negative vega, you'll want a little negative delta as in this case. So in our case, this looks like a good balance situation, because as prices fall, volatility will hurt me a bit, but the deltas will help me a bit. So that's a 10 delta setup here on our trade. When we look at an SPX, and to put the trade in, I can just right click, confirm and send. And then you can hit that confirm button right there or send it in, and that'll go through into your orders. To go ahead and get into that analyze trade screen, what I always did was just right click, analyze the trade. Okay, analyze the trade, and it'll put it in this trade screen. If you're not seeing that and you're seeing something like this, then it'll be at the top. Go ahead and switch it to the risk profile. This is what you'll see. If you'd like to switch the colors, go ahead and zoom in right here. You can click this, and I can change the colors here as you see fit. So I typically leave it kind of green and white, because green is kind of the profit zone. You could change it to whatever you feel comfortable with. I just try to use bright colors. So there you go. That's how you would do it. If you notice here, this price slice, you keep moving. This affects your profit and loss here. So you can see if you move it, that'll change your profit and loss. So make sure it's unlocked. That'll be the real live kind of price. And that's what these hashtags kind of represent there as well. So that little hash mark that you might see right there. And if you look at it, watch, I'll go ahead and just move it up. There's going to be this little hash mark right here. That'll be kind of the current price because now I've moved the price slice. The red marks here are break evens for today. That's the white line. And this red mark, along with the other one that'll be on that side, will be break even at expiration. So in either case, that's the basic understanding of this kind of curvature, this graph, and setting up a 10 delta spread when it comes to looking at an iron condor. I hope you found this video helpful and insightful and gave you some things to think about as you go ahead and set up these 10 delta spreads. Could you go ahead and set up a 10 delta on one side and a 5 delta on the other, or a 15 delta on the other side? Absolutely. Could you go ahead and do, let's say, 2 contracts on one end right here and one on the other? Absolutely. But that's starting to get a little more creative. So for the time being, if you're just looking for a 10 delta construction, that's the way we would approach it. And feel free to review this video as much as you need to set up a balanced 10 delta Iron Condor trade setup. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you really enjoyed this video and gave you some things to think about. Don't forget to hit subscribe here on the YouTube channel if you're brand new, or join me on my newsletter list, or check out some of the freebies that I have on the website at tradersfly.com. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.